Hello and welcome to the Chapter 10 briefing. In Chapter 10, you're introduced to the concept of the Servicescape. The Servicescape is all about presenting physical evidence of your service. Remember, services are fundamentally intangible, so you have to present evidence along the way as you're delivering the service. What are the types of Servicescapes that are available? Different services maybe have different Servicescapes. Of course, we have to define them, and we will as we move on. What's the strategic role of the Servicescape? How do you understand how the Servicescape moderates client behavior? And what are some guidelines for having your strategy for a Servicescape? So what is the Servicescape? It's really the physical facility in which the service is offered, the environment in which the service is delivered, and where the firm and the customer interact, and any tangible commodities that facilitate performance or communication of the service. So this is all about you making something that is inherently intangible tangible for the customer. Here's some of the elements. The exterior design, signage, parking, landscape, facility interior, air quality, temperature, sound, music, lighting. Other tangibles such as business cards, billing statements, uniforms, brochures. Here's examples from the customer's point of view. Hospital, the building exterior, the parking, airline, the gate area, security screening area. Other tangibles, uniforms. You see uniforms in both airlines and in the hospital. When you see an airline captain wearing this nice uniform with 4 stripes on it, it makes you feel more secure. Well, that's the intent anyway. Also, if you go into a bank, you notice how they openly display, in many cases, the safe with this huge door to make you feel like the money you put there is very secure. How are you affected by it as the customer? There's a flow of experience. There's meaning you derive from the physical landscape. It moderates the satisfaction you feel about service, and it maybe can draw out an emotional connection between you and the company. The management of clues, or I could almost call them cues, identifying and managing all the various clues that customers use to form their impressions. So the Servicescape helps to develop impressions in the customer about the company. Here's the typology of service organizations. There's some that are self-service, interpersonal, and remote, and they can be very elaborate or be very lean. For example, an ATM has a Servicescape, but it doesn't need that much. It certainly doesn't need as much as a water park, for example. So there are different types of Servicescape. A package conveys expectations, influences perceptions, right? So how you package your product or service. Facilitator facilitates the flow of service. Socializer facilitates interaction between customers and employees. Maybe sets the provider apart from the competition in the mind of the consumer. Notice these, like for example, I spent an afternoon in the Sprint store getting new phones for my daughter, for my wife. And you see how every wireless store you go into, because I also have a wireless hotspot from Verizon, there are attempts to make the service that is offered more tangible. There's branding, there's packaging, there's different add-ons and additional services you can buy, and the way the store is structured. If you're waiting, there's a lot of gadgets you can play with, and lots of games you can play, applications you can use, all to help establish that connection between you and the service provider. Here's an example from Speedy Lube, how they spell out their service offering. They're certainly making the service that they offer more tangible with this big poster on the wall, so you can be very clear about what it is they're doing. Here's the model that helps you understand the relationship between the customer and the service provider. There's your dimensions of the physical environment, how the overall environment is perceived. You have employee responses and customer responses, and you want good employee responses as well, because the more positive the response from the employees, the better the opportunity for employees to influence customers. Then you have individual behaviors, social interactions, and individual behaviors on the part of the customer, both the customer and the employee. So you can see there's a lot of psychology going on when service is offered, and it's important to consider that. A lot of intangibles that you're delivering, a lot of intangibles that you could make more tangible, and you could support the theme that you're trying to put out there. You can do things to help emphasize what you're trying to communicate by moderating and modifying the overall Servicescape. Often this is thought of in terms of a stimulus response. Customers, employees are the organism. The stimulus is this multi-dimensional, complex environment, and the response is the behaviors that come from the actors in the environment. People react to places with two general and opposite forms of behaviors. All positive behaviors that might be directed to a place, or avoidance, negative behaviors, desire not to stay. Your job is to create an environment where customers and potential customers desire to stay, to explore, to work, maybe affiliate in some way. Like for example, if I go shopping with my wife and it's a store that I find interesting, I'll wander around. I'm more likely to do that at a Best Buy, than a store I'm not crazy about. Social interactions, customer-employee and customer-customer interactions. Scripts, you can spell out how the events are expected to unfold in that environment. Physical proximity, seating arrangements. How large is the Servicescape? How flexible can you be? What are some internal responses? Again, we see terms from psychology. Environment can affect your beliefs about the place. It could trigger emotions. Your physiology, volume, temperature, air quality, lighting. You can have physical comfort or discomfort. There are variations in individual responses, difference in personalities. For example, if I'm wandering around the store looking at things, I don't want people bothering me saying, "May I help you?" But on the other hand, some stores I go in, I want help because I can't find anything. For example, if I go into Home Depot, I can never find anything. If I go into Lowe's, I seem to find things. So I want people to bother me at Home Depot, but they never do. So it just goes to show you there's variations in individual responses. What are some environmental dimensions to consider? Ambient conditions like temperature, lighting, noise, music, scent, color, spatial layout. Aesthetics is a big one. Signs, symbols like wayfinding, rules of behavior, artifacts. Here's an example of Cheers from that television show, Cheers, the third place. Someplace different you could go from your home and your work. So the idea behind Cheers is it created a fun place to be that you would often come when you weren't at home or at work. A very inviting environment, an environment that you felt comfortable visiting continually. That's what Cheers wants, so they can sell their product. And so their product might be alcoholic beverages, but the service they're really offering is the third place. So what are some guidelines? Don't forget how strategic physical evidence is going to be. It makes a big impact. Blueprint it, just like you blueprint the service offering. Understand how strategic the role is of the Servicescape. And don't let your employees forget it. Consciously design your Servicescape to convey what you intend to convey, and what opportunities do you have to send a message and draw in that customer. Modernize, update the evidence, and work cross-functionally. So from 8, 9, and 10, we've looked at designing service standards, measuring such standards, and then making all of those service standards and the service that you develop more tangible in the form of the design of the Servicescape. So with that, let's jump into Module 5, and I will see you in the discussion threads and the blogs this week.